The cognitive function that by far is the most misunderstood is introverted intuition. Now, introverted intuition is a topic that there is a lot to say about. I cannot exhaust the topic of introverted intuition in one short video. Let me just start off by pointing out to some certain common misconceptions when it comes to introverted intuition. First of all, it's 100% introverted. No, it's not. Carl Jung doesn't talk about intuition or any function when it has a certain attitudinal preference, i.e. introverted, extroverted, as being 100% that. He talks about it generally being introverted, generally being extroverted. So that could very well then be that for some introverted intuitive dominants, their introverted intuition is like 80% introverted. For some it might be 70%. For some it might be 85% or 90% introverted, if you can measure it in percentage. Second of all, introverted intuition doesn't exist as a cognitive process in the psyche on a standalone basis. No function is existing on a standalone basis, and this is probably the biggest misconception when it comes to cognitive functions. Introverted intuition is not pure intuition. It uses a little bit of thinking, a little bit of feeling, and a little bit of sensation mixed into it, of different attitudes, a little bit of extroverted introverted sensation, a little bit of extroverted introverted thinking, and so on. How does it manifest then? It's going to be a little bit different for everyone. Some people are going to use a little bit more sensation when they use intuition. Others are going to use less and more of feeling. And some are going to use more of thinking and so on. So it's not a pure function. That's why Carl Jung talks about the concept of differentiation. He says that the most dominant function in you is the one that is most differentiated from other functions. He doesn't talk about it in binary 1-0 that it is purely differentiated. He says it's mostly differentiated, but it will not be completely differentiated. Third, and this is probably the most important point when it comes to introverted intuition, it is a subjective function. It's subjective to me. So how I use it, how differentiated my intuition is from other functions, how introverted it is compared to extroverted, that is subjective to me. What images I generate, how I see intuition, because intuition is going to try to make an image out of intuition. So intuition seeks to sort of explain what intuition is in a sense. That's going to be subjective to me. You're going to be able to relate to some of it you're not going to be able to relate to. That's fine. It doesn't mean that you're mistyped. It doesn't mean that I'm correctly or mistyped. It's subjective. It's unique to me. Now, there is one cautionary note there. Introverted intuition taps into something called the collective unconscious. So sometimes you can get images out of that sort of collective psyche. That's too big of a topic to cover in this video, but that's just to say that it is not completely unique to me. Sometimes I can get images of like the soul or God or something like that that is collective to everyone. But it is very, very, very subjective. Fourth, intuition, particularly introverted intuition, is an unconscious process. And this is very, very true because most people who use intuition are not aware of how they are using it, or that they are using it, or how they are knowing something, or where that knowing comes from. It just comes. You just see an image when you talk to someone. You just see that they are lying, or you see that they are telling the truth, or you see something else. You might be dreaming about the future state, or a theory, or the soul, or the psychic condition of the person, or whatever that intuition produces in you. That is very unconscious to you. It's like conscious afterwards, but it's not conscious when you are in that mode. You just know that the person is lying. And then when you try to explain it to the world, nobody understands you. So intuition, particularly when it's introverted, is very unconscious. That's why it's very difficult to explain how it works from a process perspective. Fifth, a very important misconception when it comes to introverted intuition is that it can be defined rationally. I've thought about this a lot. You know, Carl Jung, he talks about introverted intuition and introverted sensing, and also extroverted intuition and sensing as irrational functions. I repeat, they are irrational. They are not bound by the laws of reason. So when we try to define and say that these 10 traits are introverted intuition, that's our thinking coming into it. Maybe it can even be a little bit of feeling, but that's one of the rational functions that is trying to define and box in and limit the nature of intuition. Intuition is not limited like that. It is irrational. It's not bound by the laws of reason. It can be anything between seeing a new scientific theory or sitting in the mountain meditating for 5 days and writing down the Bible or the Quran based on that inner images. Read Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Nietzsche. That's introverted intuition. It just flows freely. Just as well as when someone comes up with an idea or something like that in the head. That's also introverted intuition. So all in all, introverted intuition is a very complex, commonly misunderstood function, and we should not try to box it in or define it too much in that sense that anything outside our little comfortable box is not introverted intuition. It doesn't work like that.